My name is Lily Wu. I'm the director of the program. I have just completed my first year as a director of the program. Just a little bit about myself. I was a 25-year principal at PS 130 in Manhattan, and I was a member of the 2003 cohort of the Cahn Fellows program, the very first cohort of this wonderful, wonderful program. And for those who are in this year's cohort, you can talk to them about how exciting a year they've had together. It's been a wonderful fellowship in terms of the camaraderie that has existed between each of the members of this cohort. And in meeting the new cohort that has just been inducted into our program, there was a lot of excitement with them as well. In fact, we were just talking to one fellow who couldn't make the welcome reception because he was in a hospital, and he was chomping at the bit to get out of the hospital to make the reception, that they almost put him in the psych ward. So that's the dedication that we have in terms of wanting to be part of this program. It is a very, very special program where you as principals are respected and recognized, and I have the wonderful job, Robin and I have the wonderful job of making you feel good. And that's a wonderful, wonderful job to have. So we hope that we'll do a great job this coming year, and I hope we did a pretty good job this past year for this year's fellows, and that you enjoy your time with the program. I'd like to take a moment to recognize our wonderful faculty that's with us. We have Carmen, Neil up in the back. We have Ellie Drago-Sevenstein in the front. We have Bob Munson and Craig Malky. We have one more, Victoria Marcic, who could not be with us because she's currently teaching in Italy. So she didn't have the opportunity to make the flight to come back. But she sends her regards, and she would have loved to have been here, but because of the commitment, she could not be here. At this moment, I'd like to just talk a little bit about the program, in that if it were not for the generosity of Charles Cahn, our founder of the program, this would not be possible. And it was through his efforts, of his generosity, and through his perseverance in providing funding and finding other people who had the same vision of recognizing high-performing principals and giving them a source of support and a place to network with other principals of the same caliber, we would not have this wonderful program. So I'd like to recognize his work in supporting this program. He should be joining us in a little bit, and you'll have an opportunity to meet him if you haven't had a chance already. At this time, I'd like to turn the program over to Robin Walker, our program coordinator, who's going to be introducing our first panel. The folks here are a very special group of the Cahn Fellows program, because with the Cahn Fellows program, there is something called an ally that works with every Cahn Fellow. So Robin's going to talk about the allies and why we have this panel right now. So Robin, thank you.
Thank you, Lily, and welcome everyone. We're so excited to have you here today. We're starting out talking about the Cahn allies. Well, first of all, I'd like for all of the allies here today to stand. This panel is really to talk about how crucial the Cahn ally role really is. A quietly kept secret in the Cahn Fellows program is that the Cahn allies do a lot of the work. And they will tell you about that, about their process working with the fellow throughout the year to produce this presentation that you see today. And we are so, so proud of the Cahn Allies. One of the feelings, expressions expressed by the Allies, specifically our longest allies on our alumni committee, Adam Boxer and Carmen Pinto, who you'll be meeting and speaking in just a moment. They said, Robin, you know what? As Cahn Allies, we really need to have a larger role. We need to have specific events just for allies. How come we don't get to go to Gettysburg? How come we don't have a retreat? How come? That brings us here today. So, as you probably know, each year a Cahn Fellow selects a Cahn Ally to work with throughout the fellowship year. Today, we have 4 exemplary allies who have gone on to really excel in various areas. First we have Carmen Pinto, a 2012 Cahn Ally, who is now the principal of Madonna High School in Dix Hills, New York. We also have Crystal Bonds. Crystal was a 2010 Cahn Ally. She is currently principal of the Math and Science High School at the City University of New York. We also have Michael Walker Sr., who was a 2011 Cahn Ally. He is now the principal of Dr. Susan McKinney Secondary School of the Arts in Brooklyn, taking over from his Cahn Fellow, Paula Holmes, who retired last year. And finally, we have Adam Boxer, who is our Cahn Ally, who has been on the Alumni Committee for the longest period and stands as our ally representative and the originator and creator of the July 17th First Cahn Allies Retreat, which will be held at Carmen School in Dix Hills. So, Adam is the assistant principal, a tenured assistant principal at Thomas Edison High School in Queens. We're going to start out with Adam because Adam came up with the idea for the July 17th retreat, and he can tell you how important the Cahn Ally role is. Adam?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I always look forward to this day every year since I wasn't an ally. And I really wasn't sure how being in the Cahn Foundation would affect me going forward professionally. And I worked with Anthony Barbetta, who was my fellow that year, and we had, to say the least, an exceptional year. And I think it made me grow in many different ways, so much so that I thought about everything differently once I finished the year, and still to this day. I thought I knew how I handled myself at work, how I made priorities, and put students first, but it really made me reevaluate how I do everything. What I needed to work on, what I needed to let go of. And one of the things was, obviously, at least for me, was I wanted to get to a point where eventually I can be a principal of my own high school building. And I thought that every time we got the chance to sit down with one another, whether it was with the fellows or with the other allies, to me those were growing points. And that was one of the main reasons why when we all spoke a couple of times through the years, we were discussing the idea of having an allies retreat so that we could, for a lack of a better word, share some more. I think the best stories I got out of my experience with Cahn were listening to veteran seasoned principals tell me the mistakes they made and how they fixed it. Going forward, I know, we all know we're going to be making mistakes, and if I can eliminate one out of that, then it was a successful conversation. So that's when we pushed a little bit, and Robin spoke to Carmen, and now we're really excited about the idea of having a Allies retreat this summer at Carmen's new school, and I'm looking forward to it being another great sharing experience that's only going to, at least for me, motivate me more going forward.
Thank you, Adam. And now, Carmen Pinto will tell us about her journey.
My journey to the principalship started pretty much when I became an assistant principal, and my principal, Dr. Carmen, took me under his wing, and fortunately for me, he had been selected to become a Cahn fellow. So when he asked me to be his ally, I was like, I don't know what this is, but I was very excited anyway because, hey, I had a job. So joined, and it's interesting because that's where he took me on his journey, and we both grew. And so, two things, if I can point two specific things that I learned during my ally experience. One of them was that we were looking at the project that we had to come up with. We looked at this challenge, but we were looking at it more like a scientific approach. We were not only analyzing data, but we were looking at background information. One of the things that we did was the surveys to the parents, to the students, and the teachers. And I remember like Saturday mornings when we had English classes for our parents, non-English speakers, and computer classes. And this is a perfect opportunity to survey the parents. Now, before that, I wasn't thinking about, what do people think, what do they need. We were looking at data, analysis, Regents reports, and we're always looking at numbers. Now, this scientific approach, getting additional background information, led us to say, wait a minute, let's not only look at what our community needs, but what they want. And so the project was addressing not only their needs, but their desires. And in so doing, we were able to really elevate the morale and bring us closer together as a school community. And that was a beautiful thing. So now, when I look at challenges in my school, I'm in an all-girls school. So my girls, and this relational aggression that we see with women, you know what? Hey, I pulled my school psychologist, my behavior specialist, my adventure-based therapist, and I'm like, hey, we need to write a curriculum, and that's what we did. But we went and we got information. Let's ask the girls, let's ask the teachers, let's ask the social workers, and together, so that approach, that scientific approach to tackling a challenge started here with my ally journey, and I've taken that on now. One other way that I think was absolutely valuable for me was the exposure to established creative school leaders. Being part of this program allowed myself and my mentor to come here and say, listen, we're thinking about doing this. And as you're sitting in the room, people are like, whether it's Alan from Chicago or anyone here, no, I tried that didn't work. You know what? Oh, I have a colleague that's doing this, maybe you should reach out to him. And so that element of, not having to work in isolation really, really now has impacted my practice. So now, when I need an idea, how can we transition our teachers and our students back after the long Christmas break? Hey, David, you got any ideas? Hey, Anthony, how are you welcoming your teachers back? And getting those ideas. And now I do what my mentor always says that I should do. If you see a great idea, steal it, stylize it, and make it your own.
Thank you, Carmen. As I mentioned, Michael Walker has recently become principal of the school that his Cahn Fellow principaled earlier. Michael, tell us about your journey.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to you. You are now part of an esteemed, how should you say, society. My journey started, I guess, when I first started teaching, or when I first encountered Paula Holmes. I guess she saw something in me that, needless to say, I didn't realize that I was being groomed. So I moved from teaching to now becoming chapter leader, leadership team leader, any other thing, procurement person. making decisions. And when we decided that I would be an ally with her in the Cahn Fellows program, I knew that it had to be a lot of work because that's what I was used to. And like my colleague said, we did mostly all of the work. But I don't want to, I don't have enough time to really tell you about the entire project, but I can tell you about some of the takeaways. Networking. You're amazed at being in a room with all of these principals and everybody's talking and you being a fly on the wall and you listening to those experiences. You listen to these. You listen to things that you want to try, things that you definitely want to stay away from, and being able to establish relationships because you're going to have a relationship. And one of the things that I was told is that it is very lonely at the top. You know, so you have to align yourself with people that are doing the same things that you do so that you can, even if it's just a matter of being able to vet. And throughout the year, another takeaway was being able to pick up on strategies that I now use. Strategies that's practical, that you can implement. Not, you know, when you go to workshops, sometimes you get folders and you got a little pile and you just keep stacking them, you never get a chance to use it. That's not how it works here. Things that you get, you can go out and apply them immediately. And now in terms of staffing, I think that they have one of the most knowledgeable and compassionate staff that I've seen in a lot of workshops. You know, no question is, I would say, too simple to ask. They go above and beyond to make sure that you are prepared and qualified when you leave, because the job that you have is monumental and it requires a lot of responsibility. So, you know, they will prepare you for that. And the most important thing that I learned is that as a principal or as a Cahn Fellow or leader, that your job is to help develop leaders. So that's what I do in my building. I look for the qualities that my staff members have. I make sure I give them certain things and watch them grow and encourage them to do the same. So all I can tell you is just to give it your best and just work hard, and you will see the dividend when you start your illustrious careers.
Thank you, Michael. That's a wonderful segue to Crystal Bonds, who was the 2010 Cahn Ally of Randy Asher. Randy had dual roles at that time, both as principal of Brooklyn Tech and as president of the National Consortium of Specialized High Schools. Crystal took over both roles, one in her new role as principal of the Math and Science High School at CUNY and as president of the National Consortium of Specialized Secondary Schools. Crystal Bonds.
Good morning. I must say there's so many things that I appreciated about being a Cahn Ally. A lot of what I do appreciate here is what my fellow panelists have said. But some things that I'd like to speak about is, one was the best practices that you were able to hear from fellow colleagues, and things that you should explore, things that you could do differently. I learned about my leadership style and how to refine it. And that was very interesting sessions on who are you and how do you lead and how to lead. We also learned fundamental principles, fundamental guiding principles of what you should do as a school leader, and it's used in tandem with scholarly reading. And what I really appreciated about that was, you go to a doctor's office and you just read a magazine and you look at the new and the latest medicine. You go to the doctor's office, you expect that doctor to know about it. However, when we're in education, oftentimes, if it's not put in front of you, oftentimes we don't read. So this was a way to, well, we don't do a lot of the scholarly reading, but this was a way to not only just read it, but to unpack it and to understand it. So when people did ask about the latest research, we were able to discuss it and talk about it, and it was great. Now with my Cahn fellow, Randy Asher, he was my, not only my principal, but my mentor. Randy has a unique way of leadership. So Randy believed that we should learn several roles in your leadership style. So for instance, I was at Brooklyn Tech High School, and I was the assistant principal of the organization. So I did that for about 3 years. And then he said, "You're going to guidance." And I said, "Excuse me?" He says, "Yes, you're going to be an assistant principal of the guidance department, people personnel." He believes that when you are preparing someone for leadership, you put them in different roles, and this is how you learn. Very upset initially. He said, "You'll thank me later." I said, "No." But he knows that I'm very thankful because as a principal, learning and understanding the different aspects of leadership in the school, it was very helpful. And at Brooklyn Tech, with a school of 5,600 students, the largest physical plant building in the country, it was very difficult to run such a large school and have things in place. Now, with Randy, our project was strategic partnerships. Now again, speaking of the large school, you can just imagine several people have lots of different projects, and what happens is oftentimes the project left with that person. So what we did was we codified policy where we learned about all the different FICUs that everyone had, and we put it in a process so that everyone got a chance to explore and tell us about these projects, and it made it such a robust partnership and partnerships that we had at the school. And I've used that now in my school so much that we have I'll tell you about two very quick things that we've done. We have a lunch and learn, a professional view. So once a month, we have different professionals come in to our building for 1 week. The first 45 minutes, they lecture, and the second 45 minutes, they provide lunch, and they have a chance to speak and dialogue with the students. That partnership now transpires into as a prerequisite for students to get an internship at the end of the summer. We have another one. We have advisory, where all teachers, including myself, all staff, we partner, or we have a small class of 10 to 15 students, and we talk about different things and different characters and pillars. But now what we've done is brought in companies that will now take over a particular grade and expose students. They'll come in and do resume writing or leadership skills and take them to the stock exchange. What we found that as a STEM school, studies show that if you have a parent or in research or STEM, you're twice as likely to go into that field. However, if you don't, how do you expose those students to it? So we believe in providing that extra gap where the students don't typically, if it's not in their pedigree to get it, how do we expose them through that? So our partnerships, whether it's lunch and learn, whether it's the advisory, and several other ways that we do partnerships, we really, really believe in it, and it's working for our school. So I wish you all the best when you, the fellows and the allies, select your challenge, because these challenges are very powerful, and they can really be used when you go on to become, for allies, when you become a principal, and for principals, when you, in your school, you've all seen it. So I appreciated being a part of the Cahn Ally, what did you call it, society? Yes.
Indeed, the society,
yes.
indeed.
Yes. And thank you very much for letting me speak, but congratulations.
Thank you, Executive Cahn Allies. As we segue, any questions that you have for our Cahn Allies before we transition? I just want to remind you, Carmen and Adam, if you could just remind us about the July 17th first Cahn Allies Retreat, which will go on at Carmen School as hostess at the Madonna High School. Carmen and Adam, if you could just tell us briefly what the date is.
It's Friday, July 17th. The allies, Brian, pay attention. Brian, Mello, you told me. The allies that are starting this summer, we're excited to have you come on campus, and the adventure-based therapist is going to take you on high ropes. So bring your athletic gear, and ending the retreat, we're going to have a barbecue, so our Cahn family is invited, everyone is invited, and of course I told my mother, and she says, "Oh, do you want me to make taquitos?" If you come, you will be welcomed with Annabella's famous Guatemalan taquitos.
I'm just coming for the taquitos.
Thank you. Just quickly, guys, we will have a day of leadership activities, warm-up exercises, the adventure therapist. So from 10 to 3 on July 17th in Dix Hills, the allies exclusively will have this wonderful retreat. And then from 3 to 6 p.m., everybody's invited to a wonderful barbecue.
And all through the generosity of Carmen, isn't it? I wanted to take a few moments to talk about the evolution of the Cahn Fellows program, that it has come a long way since 2003 when I was a fellow. Quite honestly, if this program did not come into existence at that time, I'm not sure I would have lasted 25 years as principal. It gave me renewed energy. It gave me a lifeline to other people for resources. And, you know, in the beginning, when we talk about the Challenge project, I know it seems like it's another thing on your plate. And as people embarked on their project, they found that it really helped them focus on their work and find new ways of addressing issues within their building and have re-energized them in their schools. And in fact, many of them have come to me and said, you know, thank goodness this came into my life, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing to come. So we are looking at the next step for Cahn Fellows, because one of the things that we did that I've been hearing as a former fellow and as a principal over the years is that, number one, we spent so much time learning about leadership in Gettysburg. And as soon as that was over, there was never a revisitation of those lessons. So I have made arrangements with someone who was doing the leadership of the Gettysburg trip for when I was the cohort, in the cohort. And we are tentatively planning a session to have Dr. Jeff McCausland come and speak to our fellows and to the allies who didn't get a chance to come and to go on a trip. We have tentatively set the date for November 12th. More details will come out later as to what time it would be, how long it would be, and basically the topic will be a revisitation of the lessons learned from Gettysburg. So I think that's going to be a real exciting session for everyone. So just hold the date and wait for that information. We also are embarking on extending the program. Number one, we now have a very large contingent of fellows in Chicago. So while Chicago fellows, please wave. Where are you? Okay. So not only do you have resources in New York City, we have fellows in Chicago who may share similar issues, but maybe have a different approach to addressing them in a different city. So there is some connection to other folks with other ideas across the country. We are looking to expand, and we're looking for funders who are going to help us because it is an expensive program. If we break it down, it's about $20,000 per fellow. You don't realize how much it costs in terms of, you know, all of the expenses that we have to pay, but it comes out to between $20,000 to $25,000 per fellow per year. And so, if you have any resources, you know, please let us know, because I'm also charged with trying to find money to help fund these programs, in addition to what Chuck contributes to the program. We are looking at two different support systems. One is for people who have been in the Cahn Fellows program, the alumni. There's constant talk about, gee, I wish we had some other things that we could attend, or something that would support us in our work and go beyond just the social aspect. It's great to get together socially, but we also need that support. After a full year of support together, to not have as tight a network because we don't meet as often, there's not organized meetings for them. We're trying to develop a program for senior fellows. And so you will have to have been a fellow for a couple of years, and then you would apply for this fellowship. We're looking at opportunities to develop a program for people beyond the fellowship year. Also, there's a Rising Stars program, and you see that our allies are certainly a good pipeline for the positions that maybe, as fellows move on to other leadership roles, we need strong leaders to take over schools that are successful. Too many schools fall down as soon as the principal who is successful walks out, because either there is not a good transition plan or there is not a good pipeline to bring in additional people, bring in new people to take over the work and take it to the next step. Our allies are certainly a terrific pot of talent that has to be tapped. And so we like to encourage those folks as allies to continue their work, and we are in the process of having talks with the CSA. Eloise, where are you, Eloise? Who is supporting our program as well, for those allies who are currently also CSA members, that will be able to work out something with Eloise to provide some support. And then we're working with some other folks for those to provide maybe additional support for those who are not CSA members that will help hone your skills so that you can eventually step up as principal and hopefully become a member of this wonderful, wonderful society. So we have very, very big plans to develop this program into a more comprehensive program for everyone involved, and we need everyone's support as fellows who have been through the program, as allies who have been through the program. We need your active support. Stay in touch with us, stay active, be a part of the alumni group, and we hope that we'll build this program to be even a better program than it is. Thank you.
So good morning. It looks like everyone is here. Good morning. And welcome. My name is Terry Malpia, by the way. I'm a professor of practice here at Teachers College, Columbia University, and I had the privilege and pleasure to work with 5 fellows and their allies for the year. And we know that being a principal is both challenging and requires support, and those two things together equal learning. And the 2 presentations today are really going to zero in on support. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce one of my former group members who will introduce you to the session. Matthew.
Good morning. So I had the privilege of being a fellow last year and learned extensively from the process, and my ally and I really had an opportunity to look at data and look at how that affects people and how we work together over time to influence our school. Tara Shelton is co-presenting today, and Tara was the person who invited me to apply to Cahn. Do you want to say something?
Cohort 2012, and my focus was climate and culture, and we're so happy to be here.
Thank you. So we have the honor of introducing the presenters for today, and we have Orlando and John, and they were at the Newcomers High School in Queens. Their project is connected to approaches to improve student support systems, and without further ado, welcome and congratulations.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Orlando Sarmiento. I'm the principal of Newcomers High School. And John Perlaza, he is the assistant principal of science, mathematics, physical education. And he also supervises some of the support services in the school, like the after-school program. So we're here today to tell you about our school. Our school is Newcomers High School. And as I'm sharing with you the mission of the school, the mission of the school is to support newly arrived immigrant students, and that's what the name of the school is, Newcomers. All of our students come for the first time into the school system and into the country. So this is the mission, part of the mission is to help the students adjust to a new academic system, learn about all of the requirements, and meet those requirements. And in addition to that, also to be college ready. And the other part of the mission of the school is to provide a supportive environment to the students and to their parents and guardians and communities, so that the process of adjusting to a new culture in a new city is one that will help them with their overall development. So a little bit about the school, a little bit of data of the school. We have that the student population of the school, we have a little over 1,000, and John is going to tell you a little bit more about how it breaks down.
Yes, we have more, the population is divided into 54% boys, and the rest is girls. We also have 60 countries represented in the school. Out of 35 languages are spoken. And the main population is Hispanic, and the data is given to you. Also, we have a big population Asian, including a lot of Chinese population. And the rest is Bengali, Polish. And so it's a challenge, as we're going to see, to serve all these students with different languages, different cultural backgrounds, and having them to adapt to our school. The graduation data for the last 3 years, one thing that I want to point out, I don't know if you're aware that the graduation data in New York City for ELS is only 35%. In our school, we have very high numbers. And one of the, as you noticed, a little bit of the decline on the last year is that Queens is changing a lot. The population is moving, they're moving to other boroughs also. And also the migration into New York City, we're picking up more students from Bangladesh. So this has impacted a little bit on our school, but the graduation rate is very high. We recently had our quality review, and we were well developed in all 5 areas. So we're very proud of working at this school.
As John mentioned, in this, we're getting to the challenge. We promise you we'll share what the challenge is for our project here. You see that the Newcomers High School was founded in 1995. Back then, in 1995, there were alternative routes and paths for students to graduate, for ELS also to graduate. Many of those things were removed by the state. And in 2004, all of the students who are ELS, regardless of ELS status, had to meet the same graduation requirements as students born in the United States. So that was a big change. Yet, as you could see from this chart, and this is happening in the last 5 years, our graduation rate really went above 60% and even reached 72% 4 years ago. 73%. Now, one of the things that we did in the school was, and I have to be honest with all of you, when in 2009, when I became principal of the school was a school in need of improvement. And we were in corrective action year 2. So we needed to do something really, really quick, an adjustment. And we did what we were expected to do in 2009, which was to make all of those adjustments mainly in terms of academics and rigor. So we really make sure that we did adjustments in curriculum, in pedagogy, in collaboration, in professional development, in planning. So we were constantly thinking about how can we provide more rigorous support rigorous instruction and academic support to students. So we focus a lot on that. And yes, the graduation rate went up significantly. And we got out of the CUNY list, which is quite remarkable. And this is before they changed No Child Left Behind with the waiver. So we were able to get out of the CUNY list, and our 5-year graduation rate was also very high. But we realized, and this is that still we have 58% of the students who are at the beginning level of ESL. So when we do a nice slot, we still have the students in the language acquisition at beginning. The majority of the students are beginning and intermediate levels. For instance, and this is something that happens every year, 31% of our students who register in the current school year. So right now, out of the 1,000 students, 31% of those students register into the system in 9, 10, and 11th grade in this school year. So this is quite a challenge. We offer bilingual programs, which helps with the academics somewhat, but not necessarily with the English regions, and that's one of the challenges that we have. In addition to that, 20% of our students are in temporary housing, and 85% of our students are Title I. Now, again, we continue to approach the challenges of the students of the school mainly academically. So John is going to talk a little bit about academic support.
So I supervise the after-school program, and during the after-school program, we have AIS for tutoring, so we help a lot of the preparation, and we have ESL classes for the students in all levels, but we also have enrichment programs, because we know that arts and enrichment will help the students to acquire more ESL skills, and we make sure that even when they're in the hip-hop class, they are practicing their language acquisition. So that's how they will improve. We also have College Now through La Guardia, but we have very high expectations in our building. Even though we are some sort of international school, even though we're not in the international consumption schools, we have AP Chemistry, AP Calculus. Our students have the opportunities to take chemistry, physics. We have actually 3 chemistry classes, 1 AP Chemistry, and we have trigonometry, geometry, and algebra. So we are pushing the students to the limits, and the students, when you push them and you expect or have high expectations, they respond to those expectations, even though some of the students may have just 2 years to graduate if they arrive at the 10th grade. So those are all the support. Also, we have other clubs with College Now, also other classes like Model UN, Spoken Word, and all of our counselors, they're bilingual. We have 4 counselors for 1,000 students. And our students are constantly participating in the after-school program. It's so hard for them to go home. They really love our school. They want to stay and learn more.
Okay, so here's the challenge. That we realized that in the last 3 years, our graduation rate went down significantly in the 60s, but it went down from 69 to 65 to what it was last year, which was 61%. So we're taking a look at this and reflecting, and some of the things that we knew before we joined the Cahn Fellows was we need to take a look at this. Gotta be, it's more than just academics. There's something else that we're not doing that we need to look at. What are the hurdles? What are the barriers that the students are facing? What issues? Who are the students? What is affecting them? And how are we responding to that? How are the faculty and the school responding to that? We were having these conversations in school leadership teams, in cabinet meetings, in faculty meetings, in professional development committees, in all of the different committees and collaboration structures that we have in the school. We were considering what was happening. We found out some information from our research. For instance, we found out that we had a growing number of refugee students. We found out also that we had quite a big share of unaccompanied minors that we weren't aware of. Unaccompanied minors that have gone through the border between Mexico and the United States and had ended up in New York, and we did not know, we weren't really aware of what a large group of students they were in our school. So all of these were challenges that reinforced that we needed to do something in terms of not only focusing on academics, but we needed to look at who the students were, find out more about who the students were in order to be able to respond to those needs. Now, I'm showing this because when we joined the Cahn Fellows, when John and I we were thinking, what is going to be our project, what is going to be our goal? Sorry, I skipped a little. So we knew that our first, and we discussed this in our group, that we wanted to strengthen the support for at-risk students because we knew that there were increasing number of students who were not graduating, about 39% in 4 years. All of this is graduation in 4 years. So we were engaging the faculty to look at this, identifying what support structures we had that prevented students from going to school, from lack of attendance, or some of them becoming long-term absentees. And also, some of the counselors were suggesting, the students, some of them have a post-traumatic stress disorder. They really do. And we're not addressing that. So all of these things were being manifested, and we needed to respond to this. Then, at the beginning of the school year, the chancellor released the capacity framework. And at the Cahn Fellows, they gave us the opportunity to adjust the project to see what kind of things we can do. And we realized, and you could see that here in the capacity framework, that we were focusing a lot in rigorous instruction and collaborative teachers. These areas were very strong, and they have been noted by the quality review, and they were noted also by the school leadership team review that we do every year, that we allocate a lot of attention and resources to this. But this area here of the supportive environment, we weren't paying as much attention. This was becoming something that was happening either organically, or it was happening almost like the invisible hand. These things, we're immigrant school and these things are happening, but we really weren't being deliberate as to looking at the data that will give us some insight into what we needed to do. So some actions, and John is going to talk about this.
So we needed to extract data, and one of the things that we did, we created surveys for students, surveys for parents and teachers. And we're gonna share with you, and I have some extra copies, and obviously we had to translate it to different languages and then collected that data. We also did professional development at the beginning of the school year, and when we started coming to the Cahn Fellows, and the Cahn Fellows actually helped us see that we needed to do all these things, help us focus on the things that we needed to concentrate in order to help those students that were at risk. And professional development was one of the strategies that came, one of the first strategies that came about, and we use special ed teachers to provide professional development to the rest of the staff on how to help the students with social emotional needs. We also did enhancing social emotional support every time we have visits to the classrooms, every time we have talks to the teachers, even during the post-observation conferences. This year we also had the school leadership walkthrough. We invite the parents during the spring semester, and the parents go and visit classrooms, they visit offices, they visit the different departments like guidance, medical offices, and then we come back and we look at the highlights of the school and we take into account all the recommendations also that the parents provide us. So for the students' perspectives, I'm going to break down, I know it's a lot of information here, but this is the breakdown of the data of the surveys. So one of the things that we notice is that students are LTAs, and this term is for long-term absentees, mainly because they need to go to work. That was the number one reason we found. We also found out that no matter if the student gets support from the school, obviously that's positive, or at home, they really must have the desire to come back and succeed. That was another factor that we found. Also, 38% of the students respond better when the teachers are happy, when the teachers welcome them happily into the class, and 25% feel that the teachers are trying to find a plan so they can catch up with the work they're missing. And as you're going to see, there's an interview student today who this student is receiving AIS, was receiving AIS. They all agree 100% that the AIS classes and after school classes and during the day AIS really helps them to improve and be strong in the school. Also, one of the questions says, how easy for you is to see the guidance counselor? 75% of the students say it was easy access or it was okay. And it's 4 guidance counselors for 1,000 students. We found out that the students the motivation for the students has to do with the interest that they have in the class, how friendly the teacher is, and if they know what to do in the classroom. And finally, they really felt that one of the motivations for them to come is to get into the classes and learn English, more than accommodating their schedules or doing all the things for them. It was to learn English and feel that they're successful in the school. So now we're going to see an interview of one of our students that is in the AIS program.
Unfortunately, yeah, this is what we need, technical support.
It's good. I sometimes don't come, but I use.
Is in the Mac. It's actually fine.
You have the video saved over here as well, right?
Yes.
Sorry?
If the video is
Mhm.
separately, yes.
Yeah, that's the one, but it's big time, it is big time.
I just can't correct the, I can't change.
For example, let's start with how's your attendance overall in the school? It's good. I sometimes don't come, but I use.
It has to be in the Mac.
Yeah, I can't switch it to Mac.
What are some of the things that you would recommend for
It should play the video, but it won't correct
your opinion on different issues? So, for example, let's start with how's your attendance overall in the school? It's good. I sometimes don't come, but I usually have justification
the main thing that gets you to come to school?
Friends, and most of it is because like I love the after school activities a lot, like the media club, the recycling club, also like I don't know. All the clubs are good. Like, there's no bad club, but my favorite two are those. So yeah, that's
So
why.
you're very involved in the after school activities.
Yes.
If you were to come to school for a particular class, right? What is it that you would like about that class? Is there any class that you would like to come?
That it's interesting. Always, because it's not like if it doesn't interest me, I'm not gonna get engaged on the activities or I don't want to do like anything in the class. Like it bores me. It's something that I don't know, doesn't get me anything.
Good. So what would you say is interesting for you to be attracted, to be present and engaged, like you say in class?
It depends. It's part of the teacher also, because like if a teacher knows how to explain and knows how to get everyone involved without making it boring or making it feel compulsory, it gives you that feeling of I'm doing it because I want to, not because they want me to do it. So it makes you more interested in that class. It can be anything, I don't know, even math or history or anything.
Well, that's good that you mentioned that, because last semester you were taking a class very early.
We have only 3 minutes left.
Which was
We're just going to go to the next slide. Well, we're going to move on because we are running out of time. But we had another video which we're not going to show, but one of the things that we wanted to share was that what we have done in the school, and this has been heavily influenced by organizational learning, the information that has been shared by Carol and Rio, is to really approach the support services of students in the school with a triple loop approach, not simply to follow rules from the Department of Education or even to make some changes, but to really turn it around. And as we think about the next steps, one of the things that we're doing now is to look at the comprehensive educational plan for next year and to really change the way how we do needs assessment in the school. We tended to do the needs assessments mostly using statistical data in the school. And one of the things that we have been doing this year experimentally is to really ask questions from students, from teachers, from parents. And we have been doing this at the school leadership team. It used to be very didactic, in which we would present information to the parents, and now we are changing that to make the school leadership team a forum in which the parents have their voice heard, and that they can take a look at some of the issues and analyze them and give us some insight that we don't have, that we were not asking before. The same with teachers, students, and counselors. So this is part of what we have done through this project, to change the way how we learn about the needs in the school before we inform the strategies and the action plans, and obviously the goals. And this is where we are heading. So thank you very much, and we're going to open it for some questions.
We're going to have about a 5-minute Q&A session. They're going to sit at the table there. And the reason why we're doing this is so that we can do an exchange for the next presentations. We're going to use their laptop. So whatever you reference to present questions, you can go to any of the mics, or you can use the outside voice. Any questions, or what questions do you have for our presenter? Yes.
Qualitative or quantitative that you've seen so far? I know it's not the end of the school year, but what are some
trends or improvements that you've seen since you used this framework?
Well, one of the qualitative anecdotes, I mean, there's a lot of different anecdotes, is to have teachers reflect at the summative conferences in which they are saying, I didn't really know that the student was working, and I didn't really know that the student was in transition in terms of housing. I didn't, so all of this pushing a little to have the teachers find out more and see the students three-dimensionally as if they're almost academic endeavors to complete those type of things. That's been something transformative that we have noticed in the last few months.
Yeah, I would also add that through the inquiry teams in our school, there's been increased communication between the teachers, and now it's very different when you're aware that, this student is not doing homework, and then you call home and you find out that the student had a miscarriage. So it really gives a better vision to the teachers, and increasing communication has improved a lot.
Thank you. Other questions? I'll walk around with the mic. Questions?
Good morning, gentlemen. Great presentation. It was very well informed, because I'm trying to do something in my school too, where we create those extracurricular activities, because most of the reason the kids come is because they won't be part of that. I'm interested since you collected all this data, and you stated that you're trying to get to know those students better, right? So what were some of the cases that you saw that were extreme, and how did you approach those particular students? Because I know some of the students came, from Mexico. So what was the extreme case? I'm trying to learn, and how you guys dealt with it.
It's very sad to share with you that while we were working on this project, I knew that we had to reflect on this. And one of our students committed suicide this year. And it was heartbreaking for the school community. And one of the things that we learned from this was that it was not a student who was a long-term absentee, or who was having discipline issues, or all of that data that sometimes lead you to do interventions. That wasn't the case. So what we started to do was to really be professional development for people to start looking at the level of, the students are speaking in the class, and they're not speaking in the class, and the students are socializing and not socializing. To look at things beyond academic behaviors, to look at other behaviors in the classroom that could influence better, and so we can provide support. I'll tell you, one of the things that we started this year was we started a gay straight alliance. But we were aware before that we needed to support students and to open, so those have been getting to know the students better, not only in terms of how they, what processes they have, but also some of those things that are percolating in the area.
All right. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
So thank you very much.
I will leave some samples